Spacefarer. Hey, welcome to WTUFO. I'm Caleb Mayo. Thank you for tuning in. Hope you're enjoying the show. I got 3 quick requests for you to help the show continue to exist. One is you could support us directly on patreon.com/WTUFO or right in the YouTube player. There's a way you can sign up now. If you support us directly, we have community chats where you can engage with us and ask me questions or ask me to reach out to certain guests, things like that. But the main thing you'll get is that the show will continue to exist. So it would be really helpful for us if you could support us for $1 a month. That's 25 cents an episode. We feel like it's a bargain. I hope you do too. Another thing you could do is visit spacefair.co or spacefair.etsy.com. This is my company. We/I make cosmic merchandise. If you see something you like, you can just buy it. If you'd like something that I haven't made, you could just message me and I will make it for you. And the third thing you could do is tell friends about the show. It would be super helpful to expand our reach because I don't do pushy, scandalous marketing, and I could really use your help in recruiting other people who like long-form, thoughtful conversations with folks who have a huge range of experiences from very high woo to very nuts and bolts. If you're enjoying the show, they might too. So thank you for helping get the word out. So just to recap, that's support us directly on YouTube or Patreon or Buzzsprout. Visit spacefair.co or .etsy.com and tell your friends about the show. Hope you're enjoying it. Thank you so much. Enjoy the episode. What the UFO? I'm speaking with Lacey J. Forbes. Lacey, hi. It's great to meet you.
Hi, who are you, Caleb?
I'm well. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Lacey is an author, a spiritual researcher, a vlogger, and an experiencer. So we're going to go to some interesting places in this conversation. We don't have much of a map, so I'll just start by mentioning your book, Lacey, which you said may not be available, but sometimes it's available. You're working that out on, you're doing some revisions as we speak right now, but when people hear this, it might be up on Amazon.
Yes.
It's called Seek and Ye Shall Find the Gateway: Past Lives, Lucid Dreams, and Soul School. Maybe say something while you're holding it so people get to see the video.
Here's my book here.
Nice. So it may or may not say Lucid Dreams in the title when you find it on Amazon. It might just be Past Lives and Soul School. But the title is Seek and Ye Shall Find the Gateway. So I'm really excited to learn about your spiritual research and your personal experience. And I'd love to start with just like a vision of you as a person. Like, what's your background? What's your life like? Anything you'd like to tell us, as little or as much?
Well, pretty normal, just like everybody else. I grew up always having a feeling that there was more to life. And even though I couldn't see it, it was something that always drew me forward and kept me curious, which led me to where I am today. I started my spiritual journey when I was young, and now as an adult, it's vastly changed and evolved into something that I never expected.
Interesting. So were you on a spiritual path from your youth in a sort of like an intentional, focused way, or was this something that was like off to the side of your main life that got more and more interesting as the years went by?
No, it was just kind of something that was always a part of me. I always felt like I had one foot in this world, but one foot in another. Even though I wasn't truly aware what that was, I always just associate it with like the spirit realm, the unseen, even though I knew it was there and could feel it and I couldn't see it. But yeah.
Did you have a phase where you sort of stepped out of it? I know a lot of people who consider themselves sensitive when they're young tend to like go through a phase where they close those doors and then they come back to it later in life. Was that your experience at all?
Absolutely, yes. When I was about 17 or 18 years old, I decided to put all of that behind me. You know, it kind of feels like, at one point, it feels like childhood fantasy, you know, things that you can't explain, memories you have that you don't know where they come from, and you try to explain them to other people and they don't know what you're talking about. So eventually, I think that it comes to a point where you don't know what to do with it. So you try to put it aside and move on with your life. You know, that's when I dabbled in acting a little bit and figured out that wasn't for me because it was way too much work and not what I expected.
It is a lot of work. You're right.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, then I just put it away. And then by the time I was 23, it came back like a tidal wave unexpectedly in my life. Like, you know how the water goes out and you just don't see it going out and you're like, oh, where's the water gone? And then it hits you again, the tidal wave. Well, that's what it was like.
Interesting. So just to ground this a little bit more in regular, generic, original flavor world, you grew up in Canada. Is that right?
I did. Yeah. I grew up in Nova Scotia, Canada.
Cool.
And then by the time I was 18, I started traveling around the country. I lived in California for close to 3 years, and now I'm back in Canada.
Nice. Were you in LA?
I lived in Southern California in San Bernardino County, which is ironically Ontario, California. Yeah.
Never that far from your spiritual home.
Yeah. No such thing as coincidence.
Did you study acting, or was that just one of your varied interests as a young person?
No, I did go to Neptune Theater School for a summer program, but really the only interest why I wanted to be in acting was because I wanted to see myself in a live action superhero type of movie, whether it be, the Power Rangers, Sailor Moon, or actually a live action Final Fantasy would have been my favorite.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Which Final Fantasy is your favorite?
Oh, that's always hard because I like them all. Yeah, I like them all individually. Although the first one I played was Final Fantasy VII, and that story is phenomenal.
Yeah, same here. That was the one that rocked my mind as a kid.
Yeah.
Okay, so did you go to school for anything? Like, did you go to get an undergrad degree, or was that not part of your young training?
No, I never did that. I thought about it. I did pursue personal fitness and nutrition and wellness for a short period of time, but then again, I just lost interest in that also.
Okay. What are you doing these days?
I was working with special needs students and students with disabilities as a bus monitor.
Oh, wow.
But then the stress of the job just kind of got to me, so I had to let it go, unfortunately. So now I'm just doing my thing on YouTube and living my life, and I'm content with that.
Cool. Well, you have a really cool YouTube channel. It's very personal. It's very big. It's well watched. So congratulations.
Thank you very much.
All right, so let's talk about experiencing. What has that been like for you? And did you come to it with a UFO frame, or did you come to it from a spiritual perspective? And how do you feel about it now?
Well, I wasn't sure at first. Like, I wasn't the type of person to see ghosts and have these experiences. I never did. I always wanted to. I would have small experiences where like I would see something out of the peripheral vision, but that was it. So it was a long time before I ever got to actually see anything, but I always had a belief. Today, it really has come full circle, which is something that I didn't expect, because it started with spirit realm stuff and it's come back to that. Even though I wasn't exactly sure how to explain it, and I didn't know that I would ever have the answers for that one day, now I realize that it's very spiritual and dimensional in nature.
Rather than putting words in your mouth, I'd love to just ask you, what is the nature of these experiences for you, and has that been evolving over time?
You mean like, did it frighten me?
I'm asking more like, what kind of things are you experiencing? But I would also be interested in the emotional content of these experiences.
From right now or when I was younger?
I guess let's start younger and then move to now.
Okay. Well, I started with a knowing. I remember watching Sailor Moon and seeing the episode where Sailor Moon goes back to the moon to meet her mother from the past. And her mother tells them that they were reincarnated on Earth for a second chance to make things right. And I just went, oh yeah, me too. Just like that. Like, there was no questioning it. And there were moments like that, because it wasn't like this huge thing. Like, I would have, like I said, memories I couldn't explain that I didn't know where they came from, where, I would have unexplained superpowers, like shooting lightning from my hands. Now I understand that it would be an energetic discharge that you control with the aether. At one time, I didn't know that the aether was plasma. So, it evolved quickly in the later years, but it was pretty boring to the start, and I didn't know what was going on. It caused me a lot of frustration. It caused me depression. It kind of made me feel isolated in a way because I couldn't relate to others. They didn't know what I was talking about. So, it was something that I had to digest over a long time. But even though I didn't know what it was, it always stayed with me.
Can I just double click on the lightning? Are you talking about seeing literal sparks come out of your fingers, or like a ritual?
Like, I'm talking like Avatar, The Last Airbender with lightning bending.
That's a
Now,
great series, by the way. If anybody hasn't seen Avatar: The Last Airbender, whether you have children in your life or not, you should watch that series.
yeah, it's absolutely for everybody. There's movies, there's a TV series on Netflix, and the animated series, and it's all fantastic.
I'm so curious about this, the context of this. Is this a thing that happened to you one time, or something that you've experimented with?
You mean my past life memories?
No, specifically the lightning.
Oh, I can't do that anymore.
Okay.
That's definitely not something that I mean now. This is something that I was remembering doing in a time.
Oh,
Yeah. Oh,
okay.
I'm sorry if I need.
No,
I'm
it's
sorry.
okay.
I
I didn't
know.
understand.
Yeah, it's a little bit. It makes me a little nervous to talk about, of
Sure.
course.
Okay.
Because
No,
it
I understand.
sounds so bizarre. But this was in another time, in another age, which I identify now as like the antediluvian age. But then again, it could also have been at the time when I was in the spirit realm. So there are still things that are unclear about that. But I have found people in my journey who have said the same thing. And in fact, I wouldn't be comfortable saying it out loud if that hadn't happened. Do you know the fella who was married to Carla? I forget who her last name, but she did the raw channelings. It was her husband that actually said he remembered that. And when I heard that, I was absolutely floored.
Oh, wow. He had a lightning memory, you mean?
Yeah, like it's an energetic discharge, but it looks like lightning, and you can control the output with thought.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so you were remembering another life or another place, another time in your soul's experience during which you did something like that. And you've heard other people, or at least this one other person, describe a similar memory.
Yes. And so, that's what, like I said, like normally it took me a long time to be able to talk about those types of things.
Yeah.
But once I heard other people, like I may not know where it was or when, but all I can do is describe my best as to what I remember, and then, match it up with whatever I can, because there's not like there's going to be a historical record I could go and find.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about this meta conversation for a second, because it happens in the UFO world as well, that you sometimes feel you can get sort of scared or lost or worried that you're out in the sort of nowheresville of reason, and then it helps a lot to listen to other people's experiences and other people's points of view. And I'm curious about what that journey's been like for you on a spiritual level. Have you had kind of a dialogue between the analytic and intuitive parts of your brains or your soul, and had to come to grips with the nature of your spiritual experience, or has it been more like intuitively, deeply knowing this whole time? Like what has that journey been like for you?
Well, I think you're referring to the battle of the heart and the mind. What your mind tells you, what you can see, what you know is real, but then what your heart can feel, it's certainly tough. I think that it was one of the things that drove me almost obsessively at points to search and seek out information to find the answers to these questions that I had harboring within me, all this was. That was one of the hugest motivations.
Is this real? What are the details? How does it work?
Yeah. Is it ever going to manifest into my life? What does it mean for me? What is it going to mean for everybody else? I had so many teachers along my path, and I learned from countless amounts of people, but it helped me learn about myself and the world around me, and just, I guess, existence in general, and the nature of reality.
So it sounds like you've done probably a lot of spiritual reading. Maybe you've done some internal meditation practice. What has that looked like for you, your like education process, and where are you now as opposed to where you were 10 or 15 years ago in this rainbow?
Well, it was in 2014 that I had read my first book in about 10 years. That happened to be David Wilcock's Ascension Mysteries.
Okay.
And I read it in a week, which almost like skyrocketed my learning journey at that time. I mean, I've read a handful of books, but not as many as I should. I've had somewhat of what they call a YouTube education in all this, but I truly believe that it's been helpful for me, especially with my self-awareness and understanding, you know, like I said, being able to understand maybe why those things are relevant. I feel like by remembering those things from the past, even as vaguely as I do, it helped me get through lessons in my life now and here. So I only remembered what was relevant that would help me in this life. It was almost like to not repeat karma.
Interesting. So we should mention here while we're here that your YouTube channel is called Last Minute Lacey, so people can come find you there.
Yes.
Do you have some recommendations about spirit-focused YouTube channels that have been part of your education, or particular videos or particular people to follow other than you?
Yes, other than me. You know, I would always recommend Santos Bonacci. He has the Synchronicity YouTube channel. There's Ken Wheeler. He really breaks things down in the metaphysical sciences. And I feel like with both of those men, they really help explain the science of it, you know, the meat and potatoes of it that people are like, well, how does it work? Those people do a really good job. It just depends on where your angle is and where you're at with it and how you view things. Because I know, like I said, at one time it started at spirits, and then it went to aliens and extraterrestrials, and now it's back to a spiritual dimensional thing, which lines up with some of the older cultures like the Vedas and Hindu culture, the ancient Chinese culture, and ancient Egyptians.
Can we talk about the alien part of this for a minute? Because this is my focus in WTUFO. So I'm curious about like your takes on extraterrestrial or interspiritual beings. And I heard you mention that I've heard you describe that you've had being encounters. It sounds like you've maybe moved from, when you say it went from spiritual to alien and then back to spiritual, do you feel like those are different kinds of experiences, or are you talking more about like your perspective on the situation started spiritual, then you were exploring the idea of like alien, extraterrestrial, and then ultimately, or at least presently, where you're at with it is that these are spiritual phenomena that you're experiencing? Does that second thing sound more like?
No. Yeah, I understand what you're asking me.
Okay, great.
Well, you know, it depends upon where a person's at in their perspective of how they view the word alien and extraterrestrial, right?
Okay.
If you're thinking aliens that come from the planet Mars, I would say it's possible, but there's a reason why NASA has never found them on Mars, right?
It's probably not on Mars. It seems unlikely.
Unlikely, right? We would have found it in our physical material universe.
At least in our backyard, yeah.
Right.
Sorry to interrupt.
That's okay. So the thing about it is that, like I said, I had many teachers. Well, once I heard Elena Danan say, well, there are aliens on Jupiter, but they just live in another dimension on Jupiter. You know, kind of play on words. So I figured out that this is more, it has to do with the spirit, and that to take it further, there is this thing where they can go back from being spirits to physical to non-physical again. So they go back and forth, not only in a dimensional nature, but I researched it to this thing called the etherization of the blood, which has to do with, like I was saying, the plasma and the ethers, which are above and around us, which these beings live in. So I guess it just depends on where you're looking at it from. It may be a little complicated because, like I was saying, when you say the word alien or extraterrestrial, people think, oh, like they come from Mars or the Andromeda Galaxy. But really, we call them our next door neighbors. So it's difficult for me to explain. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I'm kind of a newbie in this space, and I feel like it might be helpful for me to put cards on the table here about just like my understanding and my intentions, which understanding is limited, but I would say I try to classify it as careful but open-minded. And my intentions are basically judgment-free truth exploration. So I'm really interested in the nature of reality. I want to learn more about what we're missing. And a big part for me of going into the UAP, UFO territory has been observing the challenges for our like existing academic structure in encountering things that live outside of their current paradigm. So if we don't already know that UFOs are real, or that ghosts are real, or that spiritual entities are real, it's really hard to convince scientists to research them, to find more information about them. And it's likewise, it's difficult to get the spiritual community to open up to sort of scientific avenues of inquiry. My project is I would like to understand more about how the world works. And the process of learning more about this has opened more doors in my mind to accepting possibilities that I hadn't previously considered. But I kind of want to shout out anybody who's feeling like topsy-turvy in this conversation, that it's okay to explore areas that we're not comfortable with or that we don't have full understanding of yet. And I think some people quite naturally have a hard time getting to, especially the higher woo parts of the conversation. And I just want to hold a little space and comfort for anybody who's going through that. I am not personally trying to make like truth claims about the nature of reality, because I don't feel like I have any special insight into it. But I'm very curious about people who have more kind of like sensory perception of these realms than I do, which is why I'm really interested in talking with you and people like you. So does any of that table setting, which I did a little belatedly in our interview, did any of that like ring wrong for you, or does it ring right? Does this feel like a good framework to be bringing to this conversation?
Yeah, I mean, we are in a giant school for souls. It can be intimidating because it seems very large, but let me just say this, that we're in a giant school for souls that you and I are part of, and everybody that's watching this right now is part of. There are other beings who went through this school before us and they graduated out of it, and now they're like our teachers. See what I'm saying? So this is where it connects with like the breakaway civilizations and all of that. It can be a lot. And I think that for me, even when I didn't understand something, I listened to it anyway, because I would remember in the future, oh, that person said this and talked about that. I should go back there, and I would understand it better later. Even if it seems to be too intimidating to a person, it's always good, because there might be just this one little thing in there for you that you will comprehend and understand, that will reach you inside. Like I was saying, I just need to read this properly because I always screw up the order. Okay. It is, first, it starts off on the inside of you with believing without seeing. That's first. Believing without seeing. On the inside, the inner, that would be the micro of things. And on the outside would be seeing is believing, which is the macro, which is the outside. So the micro is the very small, to the macro is the very large. And so as we are in a, like how we have school, like high school and all of that, we have those things, but we also have it on the outside of us in a bigger aspect, like a giant school for souls. And then it just goes on to university and all of that stuff out there. It can be a lot for people because they're just trying to figure out their place in this giant universe. But, you know, sometimes when you feel fear and stand up to it, you learn how brave you really are.
Beautiful. Well, let's talk about the nature of reality a little bit then, with some of our caveats and disclaimers aside. What do you think is going on? What's your vision of the world, like the broader world, the nature of reality now these days, with the one more caveat that this can be a moving target and you might feel differently in a couple of years. Do you think, well, something that I've been exploring recently is this idea of like layers of reality, that instead of like a binary physical world and spirit world, there might be multiple aspects to the spirit world, or 7 or 8 or 14 or 30, who knows? Like different religions and ancient traditions have different ideas about this. But does that sound right to you? Do you feel like you have some sense of how many layers, or like some of the different qualities? You mentioned the difference between ether and plasma. That was above my head, but I'd be interested if you want to explain more.
So, yeah, I mean, there's so many possibilities. Like, I've always had this thought inside of me that every book we write, every movie that's produced, every video game that's made, as we are a micro creator, it, comes to be somewhere else in the universe, pops up somewhere in a little bubble, as a new world. Of course, there's so many things. And I'm not saying that what I think or feel or express due to my observations and experiences is right and the truth, because there is a high level of individualism in it. It's going to be different for everybody. That's one of the hardest things for people, is because they try to fit it all in one box. But there's so many of us, and that's how many possibilities there are, and that's maybe even how many worlds there are, or even more. So when I was talking about dimensions, though, did you see Game of Thrones?
Yes.
Do you remember? They kind of curse sometimes, and they'll go, 7 hells.
Uh-huh.
Do you know that statement?
Yes, that's right.
They're talking about the 7 dimensions going down and the 7 going up.
And seventh heaven is a phrase in both Christianity and Islam. And I think Judaism has a slightly different view of it. Maybe there are like 4.
It reflects out. 7's the magic number.
And so is this a Hindu idea, like the 7 below and 7 above?
Yes. And then we would have the middle earth in the middle.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that would make 15 total by this calculation. 7 above, 7 below, 8 in the middle.
There would be, there would be 7 higher dimensions, so if we're the 3rd, it would go 4, 5, 6, 7 this way.
Oh.
And then underneath we're at 3, and then we have 4, 5, 6, 7 this way. So that's when they talk about inner earth, they're talking about the lower dimensions symbolically. Oh,
interesting. So wait, by that number scheme that you just made, there weren't 14 total, there were like 8 total or something. 4 above, 4 below. Did that you put us on
we're at the 3rd, then we go 4, 5, 6, 7. You know what? I am confused myself now.
I think I got to 9 in that, but hey, well,
it probably is 9.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah. But, like I said, I'm not an expert at these things. You can check the Vedas and Vedic cosmology. There's lots online about it. I have it posted all over my channel, on my Telegram, and everywhere. So it's easily available to discover. And then you will see how it reflects out. Like, have you seen He-Man?
Yeah, not since I was a little man.
Well, in He-Man, it's called Preternia, Eternia, and Subternia.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it all reflects out, and they put it in television to try to give you an idea of this idea. And Preternia, meaning like the ones who came before us. Okay.
Interesting. I'm not read up on my He-Man metaphysics, but now I want to go back. I recommend, I just had a really fun conversation with ChatGPT about this last week, and I would recommend that people ask their favorite AI to talk to them about various religious traditions and the idea of multiple layers of reality, and just get a sense for what's out there. Because I think it's striking that this is a repeat idea. This shows up in a lot of ancient religions, the idea that there might be 7 realms or 4 realms or 13 1430. I think I saw one that was like 31, but at any rate, it's fascinating territory. And do you think of it in terms of vibration? I hear this word crop up here a lot. Like I've heard, I want to say Mary Campion wrote a psychic energy book that I really liked that I think proposed a 7-layer system, and she talked about it in terms of vibration, with like the more physical realms being on the lower on the vibrational scale, though not necessarily the bottom. There are the way she described it, she put us near the bottom, and there were like a few even lower vibration realms, one being like the fairies, and then another one maybe being kind of darker. But then more realms above us where things get lighter and brighter and more ethereal until you're at the realm of just like pure light and love at the top, which is usually what tends to happen at the top in these various systems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It sounds pretty much just like that. Yeah. It has to do with density. So it'll be more or less dense depending on where you go. I haven't figured it all out yet. Because if I can figure out to leave, I'm definitely going to, to shoot off and that's see you later.
Yeah.
But one thing that I have realized is about the density of these realms, and then it gets, more intense. But I would go for Nikola Tesla's energy, frequency, and vibration for sure. Yeah. He works with the ethers. I know I had found some papers on ether tech, which was very, very interesting.
And ether is a super old word in this conversation. It was back in the day, like as in thousands of years ago. It's what philosophers used to refer to like an energy that suffuses the universe. And then it kind of fell out of favor in more modern scientific pursuits. Doesn't mean it's not real, though, given that we know our current scientific explanations of the world are broken and incomplete. We're clearly missing something, and that something might involve a field, which we could potentially call ether if we wanted to, and some people do. I also just wanted to mention here, I think I can source it to Jordan Crowder, this idea that UFOs could potentially be etheric submarines, that like if they were higher dimensional creatures, if they're flown by higher dimensional creatures, they could be physical devices that they use to move down the vibrational density scale from these higher, more abstract, lighter dimensions into our physical realm. I find that a really fun, beautiful idea. I personally I just tend to lean toward the extraterrestrial hypothesis, but in exploring this territory, I found things like that appealing and intriguing. And I definitely think it's the case that if there are species from other planets, they're likely to understand more about the nature of reality than our current science at the human level. So if they mastered like faster than light travel, they probably have learned something about whatever the spirit realms are. If they're as real as many of us think they might be, then there should be technological ways to interact with them, and maybe some beings that are more advanced than us are doing that. It would certainly stand to reason.
Yeah. Well, the aether waxes and wanes with different cycles. So it was one of the things that I realized. I didn't know what it was called even back then, but I knew that something was missing, and that's why I couldn't make my powers work. So at one time, see, the aether is a conscious energy source. So it works with you. I call it, when I would breathe in, it breathes into you but out. So it's like the divine creator breathes out this magic, as in a science I don't understand, source that you take into self. And by will, thought, and force, you change it, which would be something like an instant manifestation. So it's conscious, but it's just at such a low point right now. I don't know why. Maybe it has to do with the sun cycles or whatnot, but I think it has to do with the fact that as far as the ages go, we're now in the Kali Yuga, and at one time, the aether would have been at its peak in the Satya Yuga.
Hmm.
So that may be why I think that one of the problems is that even in biblical and religious texts, you can see, like Moses parted the Red Sea and Jesus could turn water into wine and walk on water. And then there was Solomon, I believe, who also had gifts this way, but it lessened over time. And you can see examples like this. But when it came to our modern age, I feel like, even with Nikola Tesla's experiments, he could only go so far. He could take this energy out of the air, which is almost the same. They had, I don't know if you've ever seen anything on Tartaria, but they had old equipment which could take the ethers from the air and turn it into energy, which is what's looking like they were doing in ancient Egypt as well, because it's been suggested that the pyramids could have been at a much, much older age, been built by somebody else and also used as a power source. So it changed over time because I believe that scientists couldn't see it or touch it or have anything been able to work with it. But I think and feel over time that they worked it out a little bit. And this is why we have things like Project Gateway and the CIA's involvement with extrasensory perception and remote viewing and lucid dreaming itself. I mean, if you think about it, Area 51 is called Dreamland. Why? Well, because I truly believe it has to do with lucid dreaming and the spirit body travel. When we go to sleep at night, our spirits go places.
I've heard you describe or discuss the idea that some alien abduction experiences might relate to spiritual experiences or might in fact primarily be spiritual experiences. This has been one of the harder parts for alien researchers to grapple with, because it's like neither nuts and bolts nor is it all woo. So like, would you like to talk about that at all? Or
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. So with that, the problem is that sometimes you will find residual evidence, whether it can be warped boards on the outside of the home, different things like that. When you do have a case that's investigated thoroughly and properly and, with the science and the doohickeys and whatever,
Yeah, you can get burned grass, indents, broken trees.
And because when these things mold together, when it goes from one dimension to another, it is going to leave a trace. But the traces are something that we're not used to. Also, the problem is that a lot of these people are convinced that they were moved from their homes and they're not aware about these lucid dreaming experiences and that they do move in the spirit body. They may not be aware of that. So, of course, the problem is that in my case, it's very difficult to determine when you're in your physical body and when you're in your spiritual body. You can't tell the difference. It feels exactly the same. So I think this is one of the biggest things, and even when we have finger marks on the body, they can go non-physical to physical, these beings. So of course, this is what explains maybe marks or implantations.
Yeah. Scars, injuries.
Yeah. So the problem is that we can't see the spirit yet. We don't have technology to photograph it even.
Yeah.
So how are we supposed to do that? I mean, it kind of puts science kind of at a rock and a hard place, because they really do require something that they can touch and feel and see with our physical senses, in that, the laws of physics.
Yeah. Well, we may need sensors that just don't exist yet. I mean, something I remind myself and people that I'm talking to in this space is, if these things are real, then we will be able to figure something out about them eventually. Like, there must be, just by the nature of reality, ways to experience and record and measure and interact with these other parts of reality that seem fake to us. Like we tend to draw this line between like spiritual and physical as if it's a line between real and not real, or like with the physical being real and spiritual being imaginary. But spiritual could just be a different kind of reality, a different level of reality, a different layer of things that is still actually in a real way physically true. It's just a different physics.
Mm-hmm.
I want to ask you about your being experiences. Can you tell me a little bit about like the kinds of communication or the kinds of like visual experience? Was this entirely internal, like verbal cueing, like the sensation that you're in dialogue with something that you can't see that you're speaking with, or was there a visual component? And how did you feel? How did you come to feel strongly that you were in communication with another entity?
Well, I'll just explain it quickly and briefly. I went to bed on January 15th, the 14th into the 15th in 2015, and I woke up in another place that felt like I was really there. I couldn't tell the difference. I immediately looked down at my hands because the sensations were the same. I found myself in this space where I had probably the most real lucid dream of my life. And when I woke up, the being was in the room. And this is the most important part about the story. When I woke, as I was moving and sitting up, I could feel that the space around me was thicker, like there was more there. Like, in the Dead Sea, how it's thicker and more dense, just like this, that if I had have gone like this, there would be pushback. So there was 2 layers. If we had 1 layer normally, then there was 2. With the communication, because I never ever seen a being like this. I mean, I haven't seen them to this day. I've never found them. With this being, when I first saw it, the familiarity was undeniable. Like either I had seen it a million times, but at first I said, is that me? But then I'm like, no, that can't be me. Look at it. The telepathy feels like an energetic text message to the stomach. You feel it in your stomach first, in your solar plexus, and it rises up into thought. It said to me, calm mind, calm spirit, calm mind, calm spirit. And it echoed a little bit. It was a really, it was a little stressful because I didn't know what was going on. I mean, I could smell fresh air. I could smell the light smoke from far away outside. I could hear people from far away. It was one of the most real dreams I've ever had in my life. But when I woke up and I sat up in bed and I saw that thing at the end of my bed, I was like, I knew it was the being I just saw from the dream. But the level of shock, all I could think and feel, and I couldn't even do anything. It was just the feeling of holy shit to the extreme. And I just stared at it. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I thought, oh, everything's fine. I'll just go back to sleep. And that's what I did. And when I woke up, I had realized what had happened. And I ran out to the living room right away and I started to draw what I saw. As I did that, I was focusing in on the eyes. I can show you actually.
Great. Thank you.
Right here is the original drawing. I have it in my art book, but it's right beside me now. So if you can take a look at the eyes there, I was circling the eyes. Can you see it?
Yeah.
Okay. Over and over and over and over and over. And as I was doing that, it was almost like a wave of energy, but it really felt like a download of information. And everything was like went into these zip files, but I think it was something that was within me anyway. Anyway, it's a wild ride of a story. But in the end of it, after all these years, I realized that that's me. I met another version And I felt like this unconditional love, this
Mm.
this familiar, even family type of connection. You go through so many stages of it,
Mm.
but in the end of it, I realized that it's me
Mm.
in another parallel world or dimension. We have different versions of ourselves out there
Mm.
with various differences. This one just happened to be like my doppelganger.
Wow. Do you think she was visiting or they were visiting to comfort you or to just connect with you in some supportive capacity, or did they want something from you?
I believe that that happened at that time in my life because I needed it to.
Mm.
It was at a really difficult low point in my life. And I believe that's why I was able to connect with what I call and what is called, but I didn't know that. It's so bizarre because even though I said it's something that came from within me, it manifested outside somehow. And, because I was thinking it was an alien at
Hmm.
first.
Understandable. Kind of looks like an
Yeah.
alien.
I mean, the way that it looks, you'd think it was. You'd think that was a big black-eyed, greenish blue type of alien creature. And, it's still wild that that happened, but it came to me because it needed to. And I believe that if it hadn't, maybe my destiny in life wouldn't be the same, because there's definitely a before and after point. Now,
Mm.
there was that part, right? But I always had this doubt, like, well, what if it was just a dream? What if I was just hallucinating you know, or whatever? But there was still that feeling that I could never get rid of. But it's called an asura, and I traced it all the way down to these ancient cultures. I just watched a movie the other day, chose it randomly. It's called Green Snake, and it has a place called Asuraville, which is the doppelganger world of the earth. Oh yeah, the Chinese movies like that with like where they have like where it's like fantasy like. They
Uh-huh.
show you all about the spirit realm in those. So
Interesting.
it's an Asura. Yeah.
Wow. Asura, as in Asura.
Yep. Asura, Asura. At first though, because like I said, I got a little sidetracked, but like I asked it what it was. Like, what are you? And I heard that in my head. I didn't even know anything about the Vedas or anything.
You heard that word? It said Asura?
Yes. Yes. And I
Wow.
spelled it wrong. First, I spelled it Azurah, Azura, Asura. Do
Okay.
you hear how close that is?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I searched and searched Azura, Azura. I couldn't find it. Then I found Asura, which led me to the Vedic texts.
Wow. This is
Yeah.
fascinating. All right. Well, people can Wikipedia this. Asuras are out there. Ooh, that is so cool, Lacey. Did you was this your only experience with this particular being, and have any of those zip files unzipped in the years since then? Like, have you had some moments of knowing that you think might have related to this moment, or do you think it was just like a fork in the road for you that put you on a different path or opened up some new doors?
Well, that only happened to me once. That kind of experience only happened to me once. And yes, the zip files definitely opened up. It's just like, I don't know. It's like this, it's not so much of an awakening, it's a remembering. It's like I
Mm.
would just be, like I said, like I remembered when I was young. I didn't know the word for reincarnation, but when I heard Sailor Moon's mom from the past say that, I'm like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
me too, you
Interesting.
know? And then it was like, so it happened like that on the inside. And then in July 2017, that was the month that I saw the craft. I can't remember which day it was, unfortunately, and I didn't write it down. It was documented on my old Facebook, and then I lost it. The Facebook, it got deleted.
Okay.
So, but it was in July of 2017
Okay.
when I was sitting on my couch, and I specifically remember watching the TED Talk by Russell Targ, and it's about extrasensory perception.
Mm.
Then out of the corner of my eye, I saw a light. And this was in my old apartment.
Okay.
I've moved since then, but I lived there for close to 13 years or so. I got up off my couch. I went outside. I look up in the sky and I saw a craft that had 3 teardrop shaped glowing lights on the bottom of it. I'm just trying to find it here. It is, the drawing here is in my book. Here it is here. And so it looks like this.
Wow.
With all of the points meeting in the middle. And it's the craziest thing because it sailed and moved so smoothly. There was no sound, nothing. It was like time stopped. And I lived in the middle of downtown. I'm talking quiet, not even the wind. And this thing glided over top of me. It had no resistance to where like you could go and blow it in the other direction. It was moving at a pace that I knew nothing we had could go that slowly and sail that smoothly through the air. Complete silence, not even a hum. The color of it was a deep reddish orange glow. And it almost looked like someone turned the power down on it. Boom. And that's why it was moving so slow also. I could feel, as I'm standing there at the edge of my balcony just staring at it, I could feel somebody looking back at me. Beyond any doubt, I wasn't sure if it was the ship or what, but I could feel like I was being observed back. And it just, as it went over, I got this feeling. I don't know why. I should have put the page back. But I got this feeling to put my thumb up in the air. Do you remember Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy?
Of course.
Like that. So I put my thumb up in the air and I drew it. You can see the little on the bottom there. That's my thumb and that's the light that was around it still. So it was so large that the light was still glowing around my thumb as I put it up in the air like that.
Okay.
Yeah. And then it was the last one. So the first 2 went forward first. And then it was the last one in the back. The last little one in the back that I covered with my thumb.
Okay.
And then it was gone. And I literally said, "What the F is that?" out loud, hoping that somebody was on their balcony to see that.
Yeah.
No silence. That was about 2:30 in the morning, between 2:30 and 3, which is the spiritual witching hour, right?
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
So it was blackout, but this glowing, like 3 teardropped object floated very slowly across you. And then when you say it disappeared, you mean it winked out or did it blast off or did it fade away?
It went over the building and I was so flabbergasted that I saw it. I probably just went back and just sat on the couch and just was like,
yeah.
Because you don't know what to do. Like when I saw the being in my room, it was like someone threw a cog or a wrench into all my wheel cogs and things in my brain. You know what I mean? It just,
froze up. Yeah.
Didn't work anymore.
Interesting.
I couldn't have any thoughts at all. All I could feel was, holy shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's it. And then it was just gone. And that never happened to me again either.
Wow. So it sounds like maybe the emotional experience of these situations were similar. Is that right? Like a feeling of overwhelm, of like awe, of frozen freak out in a way? Were you scared? A
little bit. Yeah, because you're like, why did that happen? What do they want? What does it mean for me? You go through a ton of feelings about it. Like, all these stages, you go through the scary stage. Are they demons? Are they coming to get me? But really, I came to the conclusion that they were just there to observe, but also to let me know that they are there to help me progress in my journey. That's it. Just to observe, maybe to check up on me. Maybe they can pick up on people by energy, frequency, and vibration. Who knows? But I just feel like, maybe they're looking for individuals of humanity to join them in their breakaway civilization thing.
Okay, so to this point about your journey, let's move toward a landing here because we spoke at the beginning about keeping this around an hour and we're about an hour.
Yeah.
I'd love to close out by asking, what is your journey like now? Like, what kind of spiritual work or just mental investigation or just like personal practices are you engaging with in your own spiritual journey, quest, ongoing search for reality, or even just like health practices? And then along those lines, what do you recommend for people who are curious about this stuff?
Okay. All right. Well, I mean, for my journey now, I've accumulated so much knowledge. I have enough books, I've read enough texts, and I think now it's the time where I'm kind of assimilating it, kind of integrating it into me and understanding what it all means. Then I'm going to more apply it to my life more and to share it out with the world. Like I said, I'm content because it's been quite a wild ride, but I'm just kind of learning how to use things now, and like I said, what it all means for me. As far as advice goes, I mean, it's one step at a time, every day at a time. Sometimes you're gonna think that something might be one thing and then it turns out to be another, and that's okay. It's all right to make mistakes. It's okay to go back and say, well, at one time I thought it was this, or I didn't believe in that, but now I do. And, just be easy on yourself and take care of yourself. I think that learning to unconditionally love yourself is a process in all of this. And it doesn't just have to do with, the supernatural, but just the experiences that we have in our daily lives, will help us with this. But it can be pretty intimidating, all of it. And I know some people will wonder, well, why hasn't it happened to me? And like I said, I think that believing is a huge part of it. Even if you keep that to yourself, you don't need to shout it from the rooftops and tell everyone. Just keep it inside, and this will be enough.
This is a really fascinating conversation. I really appreciate you taking the time, Lacey, to engage, and I hope I did okay, because I'm just figuring it out myself. So
no, you did great. You did great. I loved it. It was wonderful.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay. Well, thank you so much. I'd love to keep in touch and circle back in the future if you want.
For sure.
Track the unfolding nature of our discoveries and all of our spiritual and scientific growth in this wild, wonderful world.
Yeah.
And that's the show. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for listening or watching. If you like WTUFO and you want it to keep existing, support us at patreon.com/WTUFO or on YouTube or on Buzzsprout for as little as you want per month. Patreon or YouTube or Buzzsprout, this show is brought to you by you. So thank you very much for your support. I hope you keep listening, and I hope you have a lovely day.